You know, the story of Britney Spears is one we all think we know. We saw the pop princess, we saw the public breakdown, and we saw the fight for her freedom. But what if the story we were told, the one plastered all over the headlines, isn't the real story at all? What if it's something way more complex and, frankly, way more disturbing? Today, we're diving deep into the journey of a global superstar and the forces that were pulling the strings from the very beginning.
And to really get what happened to Britney, you have to start with this absolutely chilling idea that the people who were supposedly there to protect her were actually the ones causing the most harm. This was never just about the pressures of fame. No, this is a story about her inner circle, her parents, the men in her life. It really paints this picture of a star who was trying to send out distress signals for years, and the whole world just wasn't listening.
So, our story kicks off in this tiny, almost forgotten town in Louisiana, a place with only about 2,000 people. This is where Britney Jean Spears was born, and it's where the seeds of her entire future were planted, shaped by a family with some really powerful and ultimately really conflicting ambitions for her life. And you have to understand this family dynamic. It's so crucial. On one side, you've got her dad, Jamie. He was an alcoholic, his business had failed, he just wasn't providing. And on the other side, you have her mom, Lynn, who saw Britney's amazing talent as basically a golden ticket, a way out of a pretty dull life and a really difficult marriage. So right from the start, Britney's gift wasn't just for her. It was sold as the answer to all of her parents' problems.
Just stop and think about that for a second. At 11, an age where most kids are just worried about, homework, maybe a crush, Britney was carrying the entire financial weight of her family on her shoulders. After she landed that huge spot on the Mickey Mouse Club, she became their sole provider, their only hope. The pressure was just insane, and it really set this pattern of exploitation that would chase her for the rest of her life.
And that pressure? Well, it only got more intense as she launched her solo career. After the Mickey Mouse Club got canceled, she signed a record deal at 15. Her rise to fame wasn't just fast, it was meteoric. But with that kind of fame came a whole new, much more public kind of scrutiny.
10 million. That is how many copies her debut album, Baby One More Time, sold around the world. The song was a global smash, instantly. Overnight, Britney became this household name, living the exact dream her family had been pushing her towards. She could finally provide for them, playing the part she was basically cast in since she was a little kid.
But yeah, that kind of success always comes with a price tag. As her stars shot into the stratosphere, the world's gaze on her became incredibly intense. The media got obsessed with her in a way that you can only really describe as grotesque and, honestly, predatory, especially for someone who is still just a teenager. And this wasn't some accident. This intense scrutiny was part of a deliberate marketing plan. Her team pushed this completely contradictory image. On one hand, the innocent, pure schoolgirl, and on the other, this seductive pop star. And of course, that invited all these invasive, frankly disgusting questions about her body, her virginity, and through it all, her parents, they never once stepped in to protect her. It seemed like they were perfectly willing to sacrifice her well-being just as long as that money kept rolling in.
Every story has that one moment, that one turning point. For Britney, it was the end of her relationship with fellow superstar Justin Timberlake. And this wasn't just some messy breakup. Oh no, this was a masterclass in public relations warfare that was used to absolutely demolish her reputation and reshape her image for years. And it all happened so fast. So 2002, they break up. Almost immediately, Justin drops Cry Me a River. The music video, you probably remember it. It had a Britney look-alike, and the whole thing basically screamed she cheated. He launched his entire solo career on the smoking ruins of her reputation. And just like that, the public narrative flipped. He was the heartbroken victim, she was the villain.
But the truth, which she finally revealed in her 2023 memoir, was something else entirely. It was devastating. While the world was busy calling her every name in the book, she was carrying this incredibly traumatic secret. She says she got pregnant, but Justin just wasn't ready to be a dad and was terrified it would ruin his brand new solo career. She alleges he pressured her into an at-home abortion, an unbelievably painful and isolating experience that she had to go through while he reportedly sat in the other room playing his guitar to soothe her. That kind of trauma is enough to propel anyone into a tailspin. And for Britney, it led to one of the most chaotic periods of her life, her marriage to backup dancer Kevin Federline. She rushed into this relationship that the whole world was screaming was a red flag.
and it triggered a paparazzi siege unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. I mean, this period created a whole disturbing economy that was literally built on her suffering. Think about it. A standard photo of Britney just walking down the street, maybe $5,000. But a photo of her crying or having a hard time with her kids, that could go for over $250,000. This created this perverse financial incentive for paparazzi to not just follow her, but to actively harass and provoke her just to get that money shot. The level of harassment she faced is it's unimaginable. Can you imagine not being able to grab a coffee or drive your car without 100 cameras flashing in your face with people screaming insults just to get a reaction out of you? She was literally being hunted, and every single misstep, like that time she drove with her baby on her lap trying to flee photographers, was blasted to millions, totally stripped of context, and just used as more proof that she was an unfit mother. And that feeling of isolation was just so profound. Her marriage to Kevin Federline, who, by the way, reportedly left his pregnant fiancée to be with her, it quickly fell apart. While he was out partying it up on her dime, she was stuck at home with their 2 little boys, completely under siege by the media. So when she finally filed for divorce, what did he do? He weaponized her fragile public image against her in a really bitter custody battle.
All of this, the pressure, the betrayal, the relentless, nonstop scrutiny, it was all building to a massive breaking point. And what happened next was broadcast live across the globe, and it would lead directly to the loss of her most basic human freedoms for the next 13 years.
Yeah, this is the moment. This is the one everyone remembers. But the reason she gave for it just adds this layer of heartbreaking context. This wasn't just some random meltdown. It was a desperate act of rebellion. It was her trying to reclaim her own body from a world that felt entitled to it. She reportedly thought that if she made herself ugly, maybe, just maybe, people would finally leave her alone. But instead, the world just laughed at her, and those photos became the symbol of her supposed insanity. What's so crucial to understand is how fast control was taken away from her. In early 2008, after a custody standoff, she was forcibly hospitalized. Just a few weeks later, while she was hospitalized for a second time, a judge granted her father, Britney Spears, a conservatorship. And just like that, in an instant, he had total legal control over everything: her money, her career, her personal life, all of it. And all of this leads us to one final, really haunting question. Emails have allegedly surfaced that suggest her father and his team were actually looking into the idea of a conservatorship years before her public breakdown ever happened. So you have to ask, was this really a desperate father trying to save his daughter? Or was it the final move in a lifelong plan to control her and her massive fortune? That's the question that sits right at the very dark heart of this whole story.